This is the Merschman Seeds Ag Weather Outlook Weekly Briefing, April 21st, 2018. We're getting into a really critical time of the year. Looking outside, I see some early field work. I'm here in St. Louis, and I see some early field work. Just saw that in the last couple days. So we're getting in the time I'm really going to be covering things very, very closely, probably even once or twice a week, to give you some really good timing on either some really dry, warm periods that are good for planting or some cold and wet periods that aren't. So I'll be really giving you a lot of information and focusing a lot more operational over the next month. You won't be seeing as much as my more, I guess you could say, longer range or educational content, but a lot more operational. So anyway, last week, here we go. You can see, look at Iowa there, that area in yellow. We had some more heavier precipitation over the eastern Corn Belt, so we need to dry out in that area. Unfortunately, the precipitation over Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, that came in the form of snow here. Very heavy snow in spots, 6 to 8 inches, and pretty much as soon as that falls, it starts to melt, even with some colder weather. So we still do have some on the ground, though, for northern Iowa, southern Wisconsin, or southern Minnesota, and look how much of Wisconsin as of this morning. Again, that will melt pretty quick over the next couple days unless we get more snow. And the good news, I'm going to try to be optimistic here. Good news is, other than maybe some really light snow or flurry type activity, I don't see anything like we've had the last 2 or 3 weeks. So we're starting to change, I think. So that's good news. Now, we have a system moving across the southern U.S., and that's going to bring some more precipitation over the eastern Corn Belt, and that's an area that needs to dry out. So looks like soils in that area. If we start getting into the dark green here on this crop moisture index, that's when I get really concerned about soils that are too wet. The light shade of green is ideal. The medium shade is sort of in the middle there. So right now, it's we don't want more rain in the medium shade of green. It looks like there will be some more this week. That could give us some problems with issues with wet fields. But Again, I have some good news looking a bit further down the line. Now, because that snow melts so quickly, you can see we have a number of rivers in flood. The red areas are where it's most significant. That's moderate flooding. The areas in orange, that's not so much a big deal, but it's still minor flooding, so rivers are out of their banks. Yellow are high flow. So that's all due to that snow that's melting over the upper Midwest. The Ohio River is also receding, but it's come from past rainfall in that area. So, of course, with that snow and the cold pattern, soil temperatures at 4-inch are really slow to warm up here. Look at this, 30s over a good part of the upper Midwest still, 40s over the rest of the Corn Belt. So it's really been slow. I do think we're seeing some signs of this, trying to catch up with climatology, but it probably will be slow this week, but I think after this week it's going to go much quicker. So I'll show you why. This week, what we have, we still have a dip in the jet stream behind this system moving through. It looks like temperatures near or cooler than normal. Now, compare this to what I showed you maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. Remember that really deep below normal temperature anomaly? I don't see that. This is a bit below normal. So that's, to me, a sign that we're starting to break this pattern. As far as precipitation goes this week, well, it looks like really a pretty quiet week overall. Ohio, especially southern half of Ohio, that's going to be wet. Kentucky's going to be quite wet. The rest of the area, generally more modest showery activity, nothing all that heavy. 6 to 10 days out from now, well, we start to see this area, this dip in the jet stream, start to slide off to the east, and we're building a ridge over the central and western parts of the U.S. So what that's doing is it's gradually pushing the cold air to the east and gradually building warmer air in the west. So we're beginning to see the western Corn Belt in the 6 to 10 day start to warm up, central Corn Belt near normal, and the eastern Corn Belt still lingering below normal. So I don't necessarily see much additional rain, but in the 6 to 10 day, it still looks like temperatures will be cool. Expect the soils to start to warm up now over the western Corn Belt. Now here's the best news I've had for a while. Next week, early May, look at this pattern. Southwest flow, jet stream actually above where it should be. In other words, this brown shading saying that jet stream further north than it should be. Temperatures are above normal. So I'm going to watch this trend very closely, see if it changes as we go forward. It's still 2 weeks out next week, but right now it does look like as we get into week 2, this is going to really have things pop. We're going to help dry things out, and it's going to also help warm soil temperatures at that time from west to east. So week 1, other than maybe Ohio, generally below normal precipitation, just some light precipitation. In week 2, also not too bad. I don't see anything all that significant. So I don't see this week's going to be a little problematic. Lingering cool air, not so much rain. But again, I'm going to say after we get past this week, it's beginning to look pretty good. Now here's the outlook. In case you didn't see it, I sent it out, I believe, yesterday or a couple days ago. But this is the outlook for the months of May, June, and July. And you can see here, generally the hottest temperatures are confined to the southwest U.S. This isn't too bad for the Corn Belt. Equal chances over the upper Midwest, above normal over the eastern part, and generally equal chances one way or another, sort of a toying cost as far as precipitation. So I think I've covered it in pretty good detail this week. Pretty good chance of rain over the eastern Corn Belt early this week. Overall, we're transitioning from a persistent cold and snowy and occasionally wet pattern to, I think, a much more favorable pattern starting the end of this week and continuing next week. Like I said, I'll be following this very closely because I know it's a very critical time of the year for you in making some operational decisions. Have a great week. Take care.